Hello and welcome to the special show from Colombo on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recently concluded trip to Sri Lanka from the 4th to the 6th of April. India and Sri Lanka, exemplary neighbours. I am Gautam Roy. This trip has been unprecedented in many ways. Apart from a defence cooperation agreement and an MOU to link the electricity grids of the two neighbours, it has also reinforced India's Neighbourhood First vision and the vision of SAGAR. Sri Lanka, home to 22 million people, is a teardrop-shaped island just south of the Indian state of Tamil Nadu's Rameswaram, a legendary site from the Ramayana. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi got an aerial view of the Ram Setu, the bridge built by Lord Ram's army of monkey warriors to reach Lanka for rescuing his wife Sita from the demon king Ravan during his recent Sri Lanka visit, reflecting India's Neighbourhood First policy and its SAGAR vision of mutual and holistic advancement of security and growth across regions, especially for the global south. Prime Minister Modi became the first global leader to visit Colombo after President Anurag Kumar Dissanayake took office in July 2024. Dissanayake had last year made New Delhi his first international port of call. The Indian leader received a grand welcome at the Bandaranaike International Airport, greeted by 6 Lankan ministers, including Foreign Minister Vichita Herath. At Independence Square the next day, Prime Minister Modi was welcomed with a ceremonial gun salute and Tri-Service Guard of Honour. The first time Sri Lanka accorded such an honour to a foreign leader. Wide-ranging bilateral talks followed, covering strategic, regional and global issues. Outcomes included 7 MOUs ranging from the first India-Sri Lanka Defence Pact to electricity grid interlinking, making Trincomalee an energy hub, and cooperation in digital tech, health and medicine. Other high points during the leaders' joint press statement were the groundbreaking of the 120 megawatt Samur solar power project, announcements related to rooftop solar systems for 5,000 religious sites, a temperature-controlled agri-warehouse in Dambulla, and much more. The PM stressed India's Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas ethos, offering a $100 million loan-to-grant conversion, interest rate cuts, and a 2.4 billion Indian rupees grant for Sri Lanka's eastern provinces.
भारत ने सबका साथ सबका विकास के विजन को अपनाया है। हम अपने पार्टनर देशों की प्राथमिकताओं को भी महत्व देते हैं। पिछले 6 महीनों में ही हमने $100 मिलियन से अधिक राशि के लोन को ग्रांट में बदला है। हमारी द्विपक्षीय डेट रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग एग्रीमेंट से श्रीलंका के लोगों को तत्काल सहायता और राहत मिलेगी। आज हमने इंटरेस्ट की दर को भी कम करने का निर्णय लिया है। यह प्रतीक है कि आज भी भारत श्रीलंका के लोगों के साथ खड़ा है। पूर्वी प्रांतों के सामाजिक और आर्थिक विकास के लिए लगभग 2.4 बिलियन लंकन रुपए का सहयोग पैकेज दिया जाएगा।
Whether it was when the PM was welcomed by the diaspora or when he met leaders like Sajitha Premadas and Tamil representatives, the goodwill generated by India's 2022 economic aid to a sinking Sri Lanka was palpable. India extended $4 billion in emergency aid during Sri Lanka's financial collapse via RBI currency swaps, deferred trade dues and credit lines for essentials, covering over 80% of Sri Lanka's imports from India that year. Despite holding just 4% of Sri Lanka's debt, India led debt restructuring and gave key financial assurances for IMF aid in 2023 ahead of China. India now co-chairs the official creditor committee with France and Japan. President Dissanayike's predecessor, Ranil Wickremesinghe, spoke about India's role to DD India during its hour of need.
No, India's 4.5 billion helped us to survive this. It has been difficult. I am the one who, we know that, because there were time before we got the IMF coverage, we had to depend on what India gave us. But still we are not out of the woods, because we have just finished the fact that we've got everyone to accept, so that we will no longer declare bankruptcy. So between that and normalizing and being able to repay your loans is a long distance. Therefore, many people will not come to invest in Sri Lanka. They'll watch Sri Lanka for another period, whether we'll fall down again or whether we can repay our loans. But India is prepared to come in the government, and there were some investors come. If we get them, there will be more Indian investments coming. My plan was that in 2025 we have at least $3 million worth of Indian investments, as against a million. 3 billion.
Yeah.
As against 1 billion from outside. Later on we could have changed the proportions, but initial 2 years required a lot of Indian investments. It's the Indian investments that have given others the confidence to come in, and as the economy improved. Secondly, we gain a lot. Logistics are there because Indian goods containers come into Sri Lanka. Then there's scope for, as we discussed, the Sri Lanka becoming an energy hub. I'm happy that the government is signing that agreement. That there are many other fields where we can really develop.
India continues to support Sri Lanka's recovery with big-ticket projects and one of its major economic mainstays, tourism.
There is a conversation going on regarding ITCA, which is the comprehensive trade agreement. This is a big conversation because actually if that agreement is signed, then the trade movements between both the countries can actually accelerate, and actually this can facilitate inflow of FDI as well as outflow of exports from Sri Lanka to India.
Honouring history, Prime Minister Modi visited the IPKF memorial as over 1100 Indian soldiers had lost their lives during the peacekeeping mission in the late 80s when Sri Lanka was battling an insurgency. Cricket also featured prominently during the visit. 1996 Lankan World Cup champions met Prime Minister Modi and, in a freewheeling conversation, recalled India's solidarity in hosting matches despite terror threats back then, and also sought India's help in furthering cricket's cause in Sri Lanka.
मुझे अच्छा लगा आप सबसे मिलने का अवसर मिला है, और मुझे लगता है कि आपकी टीम ऐसी है कि जिसको आज भी हिंदुस्तान में लोग याद करते हैं। जो पिटाई करके आप आए थे उसको लोग भूल नहीं रहे।
Honorable Prime Minister is, I think, following cricket. He knows everything, and not only as a leader, being the most powerful person in the South Asian countries, and his cricket knowledge is very good, and he knows about the cricket, and talk about 96, about Sanat Jayasuriya, Aravind, and asked me about how we beat India.
I said a small request also to the Prime Minister, since we have the international grounds in Sri Lanka, but we don't have a ground in northern part of Sri Lanka. So I said if the Indian government, I request the Prime Minister to help us to bring to do a ground in Jaffna. International, I want an international match to play in Jaffna, so I requested that. So the Prime Minister got that thing, and he said he will discuss and let us know.
The Ahmedabad, the ground, it was the biggest ground I have ever umpired, because I have umpired all over the world, and now it has increased the capacity of the ground as well, and I'm so proud and so lucky to umpire over there the first game. And thank you very much for us to given the opportunity to meet the President, Prime Minister like him, and he is a very, very friendly person. I never expect him to act like that.
So would you signal the sixer for this meeting?
Yes, double six.
Millennia-old cultural and religious ties were on full display in Anuradhapura. Once Sri Lanka's ancient capital, which still remains sacred for Buddhists around the world. The Indian PM's second visit to this holy city went beyond geopolitics. It was personal and spiritual. The city came alive with colour and prayers and gave the Prime Minister a warm embrace upon his arrival on the 6th of April. At the heart of this visit was the Prime Minister's stop at the revered Jai Shri Mahabodhi temple, a living descendant of the very Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, India, under which Lord Gautam Buddha attained enlightenment. Brought to Anuradhapura over 2000 years ago by Emperor Ashok's daughter Sanghamitra, this sacred fig has stood as a witness to history. Prime Minister Modi bowed in prayer, just like thousands of pilgrims do every day, a simple moment that carried the weight of centuries. Inside the temple, the PM met the chief Thero and joined in prayers with the monks. There were no grand speeches, just an unstated message of peace, compassion and mindfulness which binds India and Sri Lanka in faith and philosophy.
ये जीवन में बहुत महत्वपूर्ण होता है। जो बुजुर्ग के पास आकर के पूजा करके वो आशीर्वाद लेना ही बहुत बड़ा बात होता है। इसलिए जो प्रधानमंत्री जी दोबारा यहाँ पर आके पूजा कर रहा है, ये श्रीलंका में आने के बाद कोई भी यहाँ पे आ सकता है तो उनका जीवन का बहुत पुण्य का होता है। भारत और श्रीलंका का ज़्यादा जो मिलता है, क्योंकि ये बुद्धिस्ट बौद्ध धर्म के कारण विशेष करके जो भारत है हमारा जो श्रीलंका का सबसे नज़दीक देश है और इसमें आज का नहीं संबंध बहुत पहले से है।
Bringing progress literally on track at the Anuradhapura railway station, the Prime Minister launched two key India-supported projects: upgrading the Colombo-Anuradhapura line and modernizing signals. These projects aim to improve connectivity, support local trade and boost tourism.
The historic visit of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the holy city of Anuradhapura will be etched in the pages of history. The inauguration of two critical railway infrastructure projects by Prime Minister Narendra Modi here at the Anuradhapura railway station will give the much needed impetus and boost to the connectivity of Sri Lanka.
Government of India had given one line of credit to Sri Lankan government and to upgrade the railway track from Maho to Omantai. It is around 128 kilometer long length, and we, the IRCON, which is a Government of India PSU in the field of construction of railway, highways and many types of projects, we have got this opportunity to upgrade this track structure. The benefit out of this project would be that the people of the Sri Lanka from the northern part would be able to reach Colombo or the southern part in a much faster manner. The journey would be more reliable, more safe. It will improve and increase the tourism in the country. The employment generation would be more. It would be a game changer for the economy of the country, Sri Lanka.
As Prime Minister Modi left Anuradhapura, there was no doubt this was more than just a diplomatic stop. It renewed old bonds and added to them the vigor of modern necessities. It was a journey through shared culture, spirituality and development. The civilizational connect was also showcased during the PM's arrival in Colombo on the evening of the 4th of April. Apart from being greeted by an enthused contingent of the Indian diaspora who lined up for hours, even braving rains to get a glimpse of the Indian leader, a series of culturally enriching events and exhibits showcasing the profound artistic and musical heritage of Sri Lanka and India were lined up to greet the PM. A key episode of the Ramayana was presented through Sri Lankan puppet theatre. Rukada Natya is an ancient art form bringing wooden puppets to life through vibrant costumes, expressive movements and rhythmic music.
Actually, for the first time, it is Rukada Natya is the only performing arts under the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage in Sri Lanka, and so it is a very old tradition of string puppetry. And for the first time, they introduced Ramayana, and it is the entire story is based on Sundarkanda Ramayana, and it is plot is basically based in Ashok Batika, where Mata Sita was there, and that servant Trizata, she was very compassionate towards Mata Sita.
Tal Nandasiri, a North Indian rhythmic cycle, was presented by tabla maestro Peshara Manoj.
In the Sri Lanka, main subject is the Indian classical music. All the school and university, they all are teaching Indian classical music. India is a very big, huge industry. Every day we are trying to make a new creation with include the Indian classical music and try to do best thing.
A Hindi scholar unveiled an 8.5-hour Sinhala audiobook featuring 50 Indian moral tales, including Panchatantra and the Jataka stories.
I prepared these moral stories of India, CD and pen drive, that I had chosen from Panchatantra, Hitopadesh, Jatakatha or Katha Sarisagar. 50 stories are there. 4 months time we have been preparing this. With the studio facility and all that.
The PM also witnessed a Pali performance of Geet Govind, a 12th century Indian devotional poem.
We saw that the Mahakavi Jayadeva Geet Govinda, we translate it to Pali, only the Dasavatara Sutra. There is 10 stanzas, we translate it into Pali. Because the Honorable Prime Minister recently tell that the Pali is the classical language in India, one of. That's why we translate it to Pali.
Assamese devotional songs called Bar Geets were also showcased in Sinhala.
This is a Bar Geet actually in the Assam language, Assamese language. Srimant Shankar Dev or Sri माधव देव ने ये बरगीत रचा बनाया है. हमने सिंहल भाषा में 2 गीत गाया है और रिकॉर्ड किया है.
Another moment that cemented the India-Sri Lanka bond further was when the Lankan president conferred upon Prime Minister Modi his nation's highest honour for a foreign leader, the Mitra Vibushan, during their joint press meet on the 5th of April. Prime Minister Modi dedicated the award to India's 1.4 billion citizens and the deep-rooted ties between India and Sri Lanka.
राष्ट्रपति दिशा नायक द्वारा श्रीलंका मित्र विभूषण से सम्मानित किया जाना मेरे लिए गौरव की बात है. यह सम्मान केवल मेरा सम्मान नहीं, बल्कि यह 140 करोड़ भारतीयों का सम्मान है. यह भारत और श्रीलंका के लोगों के बीच ऐतिहासिक संबंधों और गहरी मित्रता का सम्मान है.
Honorable Prime Minister Modi highly deserves this honor. Sri Lanka, India are not just countries in a map. These countries are linked in the history and they have trade links and very deep friendships, and I would like to emphasize that matter. Also, Honorable the Sabbasa Sabvikas concept is also a concept of timely importance. This concept is put forward by Honorable Narendra Modi, and he has always extended hands of friendship to Sri Lanka and the people of the country as a symbol of the great friendship of unstinted support extended by the Prime Minister of India.
Prime Minister Modi's Sri Lanka visit from the 4th to the 7th of April had many firsts. It can be expected to pave the way for even more firsts in the coming days. It can undoubtedly be said that no leader has done in the course of 2.5 days what Prime Minister Modi has done in the aid of India-Sri Lanka ties. An unprecedented synergy has been rolled out, which will pave the way for prosperity, growth and peace in not just India and Sri Lanka, but the wider region. That's it for this show from Colombo. Thanks for watching and keep tuning into DD India for all the latest.